Hello and welcome to CIO News. I am Khushbu Soni, your host for the broadcast and chief editor at CIO News. This is our exclusive fireside chat series powered by Goto. It is a recorded session and will be available on our website, that is cionews.co.in, and our CIO News LinkedIn handle. I'm very excited to invite our guest for today. We have Mr. Anubhav Rajput, the Chief Information Officer, the Head of Digital and Operations from Cholamandalam MS General Insurance, the Murugappa Group company. Mr. Anubhav is a seasoned strategy consulting professional with rich experience in conceptualizing, planning, and implementing growth-oriented strategic initiatives, specifically in the areas of business and IT transformation. Anu believes in leading from front and is passionate about the work result-driven activities. He's superior in interpersonal skill, excellent mix of global multicultural environment. Anubhav has gained experience working with numerous Fortune 100 customers as well as SMB organizations across India, ASEAN, UK, Europe, and US markets. Anubhav, it is an absolute pleasure to have you today. Great. I'm also accompanied by Triveni Rabindraraj, the India sales leader. Triveni has 2 decades plus of experience working for various brands such as Wipro, Citi, Dun Bradstreet, and many more. Triveni, once again, pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
Great. So I would like to begin with putting across my first question to you, Anubhav. Being at a CIO role for such a large group company, what does your typical day look like?
See, being part of a general insurance, I always say it is handling, multiple lines of business, and each having its own different technology setup. So the day may start with a discussion on motor, and then from there go on to the discussion around the health areas, from there engineering, property, marine, travel, and finally it may end on a discussion around claims for a cattle. So they can be as diversified as possible. But of course, what has changed in the last few years is the key appreciation across the stakeholder, whether it is the business functions, investors, and the management team, in terms of the ability of technology to deliver genuine business results. So the engagement is right from the discussion about launching a new product to launching a new channel to onboarding a new business partnership model, and anything and everything, fraud control, risk aversion, everything. So technology is really in the driving seat, and there's a huge opportunity on the insurance sector to actually deliver measurable business outcomes using technology-driven interventions. So days are very exciting, and I'm confident it is going to remain so for the next few years as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think with these dynamic, changes that we're seeing, we all are learning and growing with different ways of working. So, given the demands of today's distributed workforce, it's become imperative to scale up and arm the IT teams with the right tools. What have been the demands of your IT ecosystem on this front?
See, what is happening is, I think COVID taught one thing to all of us, that being physical in office is not the only model to operate. And with that, what really changed is that overnight, or in a matter of a few days, organizations were able to gear up to a model where the entire workforce, including all critical functions, were able to work and support remotely in a very seamless manner. Now, it has its own set of challenges, and all organizations did it at a different pace, but the best part is that across industries, all organizations were able to achieve it. But with that happening, there was enough and a significant traction on the IT support functions to now be able to manage a very diverse set of workforce requirements across the country, distributed manner, while at the same time taking care of 3 aspects in a very critical manner. One is business continuity. The transactions, the work has to continue. Second is not compromising on the security aspect. And third factor, which sort of slowly crept in but became very critical in the 2 or 3 months post-pandemic, is not compromising the customer or the user experience also. So doing a
Okay.
balancing equation of these three vectors is actually the challenge for all IT support functions today across industries. And it's
Right.
a beautiful interplay, and organizations who have been able to successfully do it have been sort of emerging as a vector and delivered significant productivity benefits for long term for their customers and business partners.
Right, right, absolutely. Absolutely. So, how would you say, Anubhav, is your IT help desk fully empowered to provide fast and efficient support to your current flexible ways of working today and to the future? Do you see that, it's completely empowered?
Yes, see, we have put, of course, some sort of automation in place, some sort of tooling in place to provide remote support, and it's been a journey. So initially, when we started, it was all about the office machines, whether it is laptops or desktops. But slowly, we realized that this landscape is becoming more and more pervasive. So of course, we introduced bring your own device concept at the right juncture, give flexibility to
Yeah.
the employees. While for security, we in a matter of 2 or 3 months were able to set up a zero trust based architecture for security to give secured access to our users to the right critical resources and assets of the technology layer. Now, but this requirement keeps on changing. So the senior management team, business partners, they want to access on different kinds of devices, having all different kinds of operating systems. While at the same time, the support requirement goes, now literally 24 by 7. There could be someone traveling to a certain location, a remote location, trying to access a critical office resource on an Android device or an iOS device, on a Mac OS X device, right? But the support requirement still remains the same. So yes, there are tools and enablers which have been put in place, and slowly as we move forward on this, we have ensured that there are certain improvements done on the security aspect. There are improvements done on, for example, the performance aspect. So Cholamandalam, as you would know, operates out of close to 600 branches, and a large part of it is spread across tier 3, tier 4 locations. So with that happening, the connectivity tends to be challenged in some of these towns. Still, there are areas or pockets where connectivity could not be the best in class. So having the right tool set which can actually support on a low connectivity or a low latency model is
Right.
something which has become or emerged as a very critical requirement for us to support the IT support aspect. And that is
True.
something which is continuously an area of concern, and continuously organizations have to do whatever it takes to provide those support. At the same time, security is a learning process. So, uh, for example, critical users, for example, my health claims team, or let's say the underwriting team, or let's say the investment function who are working remotely will have access to very sensitive data, including PIS, PI kind of data. How do we
Right.
ensure that through remote support, we are not leaving any kind of a backdoor open or any kind of privacy is getting compromised? Is something which every CIO will have as a top of the mind challenge in the current times.
Right. Right. Absolutely. I think that these have become, the top priorities for organizations. Triveni, you've been interacting with a lot of CIOs, in the last couple of years. So what, has your, understanding, what should be the top priorities when considering remote support solutions? If you can advise on that.
So thanks for that
See, I think,
question. Yeah, sorry.
yeah. No, no,
Sorry,
go ahead,
Anubhav. Go
Triveni.
ahead. No, so what I was wanting to say is that being fortunate enough to sell to the CIOs across the industries, right. So one thing, what we have observed is that there are two things, right. What I call it as the PPE, pre-pandemic era and the post-pandemic era. In the pre-pandemic era, right, the requirement for remote tools, obviously, we all know was not very high because I think the term remote, hybrid, virtual, or were very alien to us, and a small section of people I would say the technology industry really used to look at the remote working model, right? But I think now with the pandemic, the whole corporate world was forced to go remote, right? Completely remote, and now obviously we are coming out of the pandemic, but still I think the remote will is here to stay, because hybrid people want flexibility in work, and flexibility today means that I should be able to work from office and from home. So I think the 5 day office going model has completely gone out, right? So this alone puts a lot of pressure or a lot of requirement for innovation in the technology, because our whole work system ecosystem is dependent on the technology side of it, right? And like Anubhav said, right, I like the 3 points that he said, right, which was one thing is very important is of course the continuity, the business continuity. You need to keep your lights on. The second one is being security. Obviously now, because the work is moved from the perimeter of your office to home to anywhere, security becomes a big factor, right? And the third one is the experience, be it employee experience or the customer experience. So any technology needs to meet these three standards, right? And same goes with remote support technology, right? Now, one good thing is I'll be able to probably list down some of the main things that the CIOs, the technology buyers need to look for when choosing a remote support, because we as a company, right, we've been into the remote support industry for the past 19 years, right? Since 2003, probably, when the term remote was even alien to most of us, right? So from that experience, I can quickly jot down some of the important things to look for. The first one is the core functionality, right? We all know that the remote support solution should provide remote control, remote screen, file transfers, etc. But also we need to look at some of the other functionality which may seem advanced but are really now a part of the core functionality, purely because of the hybrid working model, right? The first one is the BYOD device, like Anubhav specified on that, right? The influx of the BYOD devices have definitely increased tenfold, if I may not exaggerate, right? So the need to quickly diagnose these issues, regardless of the device or systems, becomes critical, right? And the technicians should be able to check essential technical data automatically, and like he also mentioned, right, the time is extremely important. So this particular checking the essential technical data, it should help in speeding up the troubleshooting time. And obviously, if the troubleshooting time increases, the user experience goes for a toss there. The next one is unattended machine access, right? Because of most of the employees, at least let's say 50% of the employees are not going to be in your office. It becomes even more important for you to look at the unattended machine access, where where your end users are need not have to be tied down to the workstation while the remote support session is going on, right? The third one is multiple session handling. Right now, Anubhav spoke about, it's very important for them to measure the key business outcomes while looking at technology, right? So same with a remote support tool, you need to look at certain metrics which, based on which you will purchase a remote support solution. And one of the main metric is, of course, your average handling time in your service desk, right? I'm sure that's something that every CIO might be measuring their productivity of service desk. Hence, handling multiple sessions simultaneously will definitely help the technicians handle more sessions and reduce the queue. The next one is, of course, the integrations, right? We are in an era of application overload, if I may say, which means that for everything we need to, or we are dependent on applications. So it becomes very important for one application to speak to another, so that the end user has a seamless experience, right? So it is very important to ensure that your remote support solution integrates with applications like your ticketing tool, right, or your CRM, etc., so that there is a seamless output. Then the other one is the collaboration, and this is something that we have seen specifically a lot in the BFSI industry, where the technicians have to invite external technicians to collaborate. Right now, the external technician could be a hardware vendor like your laptop vendor or your printer vendor, etc. It becomes very important, and you need to ensure that you are collaborating with the external technicians on the same call. Now, coming to internal as well, your L1 should be able to collaborate with your L2, L3 for escalated queries in the same call. As one of the other business metrics that becomes very critical here is the first call resolution, right? Finally, the administration managers, right? They need to have certain administration capabilities to run their departments efficiently. So the remote support solution should allow them to assign, say, issue based on technician expertise, create escalation levels, set permissions to ensure compliance, right? I'm sure specifically again from the BFSI industry, this becomes a very big part, because certain set of people have access to certain very set highly sensitive data. So these kind of permissions need to be possible in your remote support solution. The other thing is, of course, your usability. That is, your connection needs to be faster. You need to have the right method to for connection. It could be either through one-click desktop top item, or your intranet page, or a mobile app, or it could be a technician generated pin code, right? Now, although also another thing to remember is that your users are not as tech savvy as your technicians are. So they often find it very difficult to follow requests from IT over the phone, right? So your remote support tool should enable technicians to conduct triage steps without any additional user involvement. So that your employees can sit back and do whatever else they're doing in that meantime. The last bit is the deployment model, right? So we need to make sure that your remote support solution provider uh, is probably or 100% a cloud based technology, right? Because today, obviously, because of the way that we have transitioned from because of the pandemic, the requirement for adopting 100% cloud becomes extremely critical. Obviously, there are certain players in the market who, because of this particular transaction, have transitioned from cloud from on premise to cloud, but these are missing some of the important cloud functionality. So it becomes extremely important for you to see that there are no any additional hardware maintenance and other upgrade headaches, etc. So if I need to really summarize, as workplace continues to trend hybrid, additional demands will definitely be placed on remote IT help desks, because more and more people would be dependent on IT help desk, right? And it could be from the remotest location possible. So to ensure that people are able to support mobiles, not only your laptops and PCs, but Mac and Android support becomes very critical, so that you are able to support the last mile as well.
Great. Great. Thank you so much, Triveni, for charting down the top priorities for evaluating any remote support. One of the point which Anubhav and Triveni you both highlighted were around the security aspect, right? So my question to you is, Anubhav, what are the top priorities for security? You mentioned that you deployed Zero Trust as one of the architecture. So, what are the top security priorities at your end, and the standards that you follow for the remote?
Yeah, see, just to sort of add a point, I think Triveni gave a very elaborate and a very detailed and a very good description of the kind of features. But as a CIO, I think one very important point that Triveni also touched upon is the ease of deployment. See, when you have a remote workforce of 6,000, 7,000 or upward kind of a workforce distributed across, and you have to introduce this capability, your ability to deploy this solution, irrespective of the tech savviness of your end user. So it should be extremely simple to use. Even the most sort of least tech savvy entry level salespeople or core sort of back end financial and accounting teams who are not very well versed on the modern technologies should be able to very easily adopt the solution and take benefit from it. One more feature, and which sort of starts my response on the security side, is the ability to handle both unattended and unattended sessions. I'll give an example of why unattended becomes important. Today, for example, most organizations encrypt the hard disks of the endpoints, whether it is a desktop or a laptop. Now, time and again, there will be certain 1% of the endpoints where the data would have to be either transferred to a different device, or the device has to be, undertaken for a repair maintenance, or a patch has to be installed. Now, for this, what will happen is that it will take several hours to complete this activity. Now, the user will not have the time availability or the patience to sort of, be on a standby for 6-8 hours along with the IT tech support team to have that activity completed. That is where, for example, the entry point of an unattended session use case starts coming, right? And Khushbu, since you talked about security, I think 3 or 4 key paradigms to take care of. A, the ability for remote support should be purely based on a clearly auditable access controlled and access login mechanism. B, there should be a clear session encryption which should be available, because today, with the kind of diverse workforce, people will be trying to seek support in a remote manner across their personal devices, over the air, through internet, at different locations, definitely not in the office network. The whole concept is that it has to provide support remotely. So you are going to be outside the office network and you have a tech issue. So the easiest way to connect will go on an internet session. So that is where session encryption is a key requirement. Third is, in order to gain access, organization, depending on even a critical user base, have the concept of multi-factor authentication. That is the next aspect. Third is, a clear audit trail is maintained of all activities that are being done. Fifth is, there can be access restrictions applied to certain files and folders based on fingerprinting concept. So you can apply the fingerprinting concept, merge it to apply security to files and folders. And even if there is a genuine requirement for tech support, there are certain data files which may not be accessed by the tech support team. Those kind of controls can be built in. So these are the kind of controls, family controls, that will give assurance to all the tech leaders that yes, this is a solution which will not compromise on the security. Of course, the basic ones are there. You can integrate it with your LDAP. You can provide complete, secure remote access. Screen sharing can be restricted to what kind of activities can be done, cannot be done. Whether file printing option has to be given, not given. Those are definitely some features which will be need-based, use case based. But these are some of the most important things that are very much required to ensure that the data and endpoint security is not compromised while the support and the user experience is completely good.
Great, great. Triveni, if you can add your inputs
Yeah.
as well on the security
Yeah,
aspect.
I think Anubhav has made my job easy. I don't, I think he's covered all the aspects, but just reiterating, right? I think from a remote support perspective, I think, I would probably reiterate on four points. The first and the foremost being robust administration, right? I think, if the CIOs have their admins that have 100% control over everything the agents can and can't do during the remote support solution. I think, so, sorry, remote support session. That's a great capability, right? And I think the other point, like audit trails, right? You need to have a complete, record of the audit trails. You need to have a complete record of the recordings, etc. The other bit in administration, right? I think what becomes very important is that you need to have capability to allow your agents to only provide whatever information is required, or have proper access to only what is required, right? It becomes important for us to have the full permission based functionalities, so that the security aspect is taken care of. The second one is the secure connection methods, right? You need to look at what are the some of the stuff, right? You don't need to go to a third party page. Can we have the remote support session hosted through your own website or through your intranet site? That sort of helps a lot in having access to a third party website. Or also, if it is if it's a pin based sessions, which is sort of initiated from the technician side, that again makes it completely secure. The other part is the data protection, right? I think this is something that today is become extremely critical, and it is no more a CISO's headache, right? Or even a CIO. It's become a business issue, really. Security today is definitely not only a technology department's responsibility, but the whole business responsibility, right? So even things like, because if I have to just quote, right, one of the surveys that the DBRI did in last year, you will be really shocked to know that 85% of the data breaches happened because of some kind of a human element that was involved. And more often that was password misuse, right? Or weak password, stolen credentials, some form of phishing. So if it is going to be so high, one of the main things that we need to take care of, which more often, or is probably less emphasis is put on, is the human element. So how much are we doing in terms of the security training for the employees, right? A lot of times what happens is a security training just becomes a check in the box, some kind of a self-paced module that the employees need to go through, and we know the effectiveness of that. Coming back to the remote support, I think like again reiterating what Anubhav said, your remote support tool needs to integrate or needs to use the single sign-on. It's no more two-factor authentication. I think multi-factor authentication needs to be integrated well, and also we need to ensure that it is completely end-to-end encrypted, like a bank level encryption of 256-bit AES. Having that, I think, will definitely be a critical factor.
Great, wonderful, very insightful discussion so far. My with considering the time limit we have, I have one question for each of you. My question to you is, Anubhav, having a tool with the right priorities met is one half of the challenge covered, right? The other half is driving enough adoption to meet ROI standards. So what are your driving forces when it comes to achieving the optimal ROI?
See, I think the proof lies in the pudding, Khushbu. So if the solution is able to meet all the technical, security, and usability aspects, then automatically the user adoption is extremely high, which is, for example, in our case, we have got close to about 7,000 users. And typically in any given week or any given month, there is a reasonable fraction we can have to, sort of touch base on and leverage this kind of a tool for remote support. So if the user adoption happen and we are able to achieve our objective, that to me is the biggest ROI for a technology head to be concerned about. The challenge comes when either the tool is too complex, requires too many technical maneuvers for a routine user to be able to leverage its benefit, or compromises security and performance aspects, which renders it almost unusable. So the solution, as long as it meets the requirement of no performance overheads, complete security and control, and very simple and easy to use. See, this I have become a very big fan of this saying that no one taught how to use Facebook and Instagram, right? No matter how we look at it, that is something which probably the kids of today will say, but the reality is it is indeed true if you think about it. So users don't have time to undergo training of support solutions, and it is the responsibility of technology product companies to make sure it is very easy and seamless to use. And if that happens, then to me that is more than enough ROI to look at this solution. It is now a critical tool enabler for a CIO repository and no more a discretionary item in today's day and time.
Absolutely, absolutely. Triveni, what are the challenges you've seen before and after adopting a remote support solution, and how do you suggest overcoming those challenges?
Yeah. So I think before I've sort of touched upon in the beginning, I'll probably look at the post, right, adoption. And one thing definitely that any technology company struggles with is adoption, right? 100% adoption. I was reading somewhere one of the quotes by a Salesforce executive that the biggest challenge that they have is in ensuring 100% of the employees adopt 100% of the functionality. I think he said that if the day that it happens, Salesforce will be. I mean, there was some quote I don't remember, but the crux of the matter is the adoption here, right? So we as a technology company, like Anubhav mentioned, I think very important for us to ensure that it is as simple to use, right? Because remember, right, the technicians may be used to using a different platform, or may be used to just solving stuff on a phone call. Anything is a change, so it's all about change management, right? So how do we navigate that? So one of the biggest responsibilities that when we do an enterprise-wide, deployment, is that we have a dedicated customer success team who takes care of this adoption and change management, right? So for the first 90 days of the deployment, we are there with our customers to ensure that the technicians get very comfortable with the tool. We do trainings, onboarding sessions, user sessions, admin sessions, etc. Very robust plan is put in place to ensure that this happens. The other thing is, which is a very critical thing, is the ROI, right? So what we also need to do, in the post adoption phase, it will be good for us to take at least the top three metrics that probably the CIO is looking at, and work towards achieving those metrics, and also have timely check-ins with the team to ensure that these ROIs are always met, right? The other thing which I have seen go down pretty well is create bit-sized videos of using your tool, right? Obviously, like I said, if you do like even a 15-minute video, it's little difficult to get the attention of the people, right? So can we create like 60 seconds, 90 seconds product videos, so that the technicians have it handy, and create a set of FAQs, because as an OEM, we know what are some of the commonly asked questions, or issues that come up, right? Like for example, I'm sure Anubhav will agree with me. 70% of your help desk issues are for password reset, right? So creating a knowledge base of those kind of questions, right, will help the technicians also to refer to a ready reckoner uh, quickly.
Great, awesome. This has been a wonderful discussion with you both, Anubhav and Triveni. Very insightful conversation. I'm sure that are good key takeaways from this for our viewers. So thank you once again for joining on the CIO News platform and sharing your perspectives and learnings on this episode. I look forward to having many more conversations with you both in future. Thank you once again.
Thank you so much, Khushbu. Thank you, Anubhav.
Thank you, Khushbu Triveni. Very nice having interaction on this call. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.